Now, this word justification, it is commonly applied to all sorts of religions. But I want you to look at something for a moment. So, if I walk up to some people who call themselves Christians and said, if you died right now, where would you go? They'd say heaven. I'd say, why? Well, I'm good. I'm good. Okay. I walk up to a Jewish, an Orthodox Jew, and I say, if you died right now, where would you go? I have the hope of being gathered to paradise, the way of the righteous. Why? Because I've tried to keep the law. Okay. I'm a righteous man. Okay. I go to a Muslim. If you died right now, where would you go? I would go to paradise. Why? I've read the Quran. I followed the great pillars of the faith. I give alms to the poor. I've made pilgrimages. I am a righteous man. They all have something in common, don't they? They are righteous in themselves. You come up to the Christian, the real one. If you died right now, where would you go? The Christian says, in sin I was conceived. In sin I was brought forth. I went astray from the womb. I have broken every righteous command that God ever made. Well, sir, how could you have any hope of heaven? I have a hope. It's Jesus Christ the righteous. He did it all. He did it all. He did it all. Religion is never about men getting glory. It's about God getting glory for saving men. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, being justified as a gift by His grace through the redemption which is in Christ Jesus. Redemption. We're going to talk about that more in a moment, but I hear sometimes in Christian songs, people yelling out, I've been redeemed. Puritans used to say that there are some words that should never fall from a Christian's lip, lest the lip be trembling. There are certain words too precious to pronounce without a bowed head and a broken heart and a looking unto Jesus. Redemption is one of them. I've been bought. Yes, you've been bought. You have. Redemption, the idea of redemption is you have a prisoner, a condemned, vile prisoner. You have a slave, or maybe captive in a war that's held in chains. Redemption is the payment of a price that they might go free. Now, you ought to understand from the metaphor, of course, that price is not going to come from the prisoner or the slave. It's got to come from outside. It's got to be external. Why is redemption so precious to Christians who think a bit, who are mature? Why is redemption so precious? Because redemption was the blood of the Son of God. Blood that flowed as He was crushed under the wrath of His own Father. To whom was the redemption paid? To the devil? No. No. The redemption was paid to God. God. Yes, God. Now here's where I want you to understand something, and if you haven't listened to anything tonight, listen to this. This is very, very important. Many of the reformers, a spectacular number of the Puritans, I think of William Bates and others, wrote massive volumes on this doctrine. And up until probably 100 years ago, you would have never even heard a gospel sermon without this doctrine being at the forefront. And this doctrine is this: the harmony of the attributes of God. When a theologian says that God is perfect, you think, well, he's without sin. Well, he is without sin, but that's not really the idea here. You see, you and I, we have attributes, don't we, and characteristics, and they're mutable and changing, and they're completely out of harmony. There's no harmony in our natures. But you see, God is perfect. And God's attributes harmonize perfectly. Sometimes I hear these silly preachers say, instead of being just with you, God was merciful. Well, that presents a theological problem, doesn't it? It means God's mercy is unjust. That doesn't work. You see, God being perfect exists, all his attributes in perfect harmony, and thus is the problem. Because although God not only loves, but God is love. He's never not love in any circumstance. Because it's an attribute, an immutable, that means unchanging characteristic of God. In the same way that God will never not be holy or never not be righteous, God will never diminish in those attributes, so God will never not be love. He is love. But here's the issue. He's also just. He's just. He's righteous. And that's why God hates evil. He hates it. He hates it with a hatred that you can't even begin to sound the depths of. He hates evil. He hates sin. And you say, oh, yes. God hates the sin and loves the sinner. Well, that makes for good songs, but very poor theology. Because you cannot separate the sin from the sinner. And God doesn't throw sin in hell. He throws sinners in hell.